Welcome to the Leadership Essentials Playbook, Personalized. I'm Cindy Gay, founder of the Metiss Group, and the fact that you're watching this video tells me you're either considering or have been selected for or requested some leadership development, and somebody thought this Leadership Essentials Playbook was going to be the perfect answer for you. The reason we call it personalized is we're very excited to present it in this format. Historically, when we did the Leadership Essentials, it was only really available for group settings and cohorts of at least 10 people or more. There were several issues with that because some of our clients have smaller groups of leaders that they want to put through, or one person at a time, or in many cases where an organization has brought us in to go through several rounds of leaders, all of a sudden hires a new leader and they want them on the same page, and we didn't have a way to really deliver something to that person individually. So you are the lucky one to benefit from this. This is specifically set up for people to go through it one at a time. However, if there's a small group of you in your organization, say 3 or 4 of you, you can participate as a small group for part of it. Every one of the months is going to include some instructional video, usually run by me, some one-on-one coaching for where you are in your personal journey, and some practical application. So if, as a small group, you wanted to watch the video together and share some experiences about, hey, do you remember when this happened or remember when that happened? And then still meet with your coaches individually for where you are in your leadership journey, you can do that. Or you can just watch the videos by yourself. So a little bit about the Metiss Group, because if you're watching this, you may not know us. We have been around since 1996. And we have been helping organizations to make sure they get the right people in the right seats and then extraordinary performance out of them. So we have a particular program called the Hiring Process Coach to make sure organizations are hiring superstars like you. And then how do we really get superstar performance out of them? It really comes down to leadership, because if you've hired a superstar and they're not performing at a superstar level, it has to be about the culture, about the leadership that isn't bringing out the best in somebody. So you are taking your first step in this leadership journey, and we wanted to welcome you. So a little bit more about the Metiss Group. I founded the business in Metro Detroit, as I said, in 1996, and then 10 years later expanded it into Charlotte, North Carolina. Once people heard we had offices in 2 different states, they said, well, wait, can you do work in Texas, and can you do work in Colorado, and so on. And so we're all over the continental US for the most part. We do a little work overseas, but for most part, it's here in the continental US. Most of our stuff is under the Leadership Academy. Everything starts with the hiring process coach. How do we make sure you, as a new leader or existing leader, are hiring only the superstars and not bothering with the duds? And then the accountability system really helps make sure that they're achieving all of the expectations you had for that role. Eventually, we have lots of programs to continue developing the leaders, from the emotional intelligence journey to this Leadership Essentials Playbook program to strategic leadership opportunities as you advance in your leadership career, and even for founders or visionaries to make sure they're bringing on the right integrator or their second in command. All of our learning really follows the 70-20-10 model. In this model, we know that we need to make our learning sticky, that adults really don't learn from being in a lecture environment. So the reason you're going to have all the components to this learning is to make sure the learning sticks and it's easier. But when you think about it, it's how you've probably learned most everything else in your life. The 70-20-10 model starts with the idea that only about 10% of your time is structured learning. And in the group setup, that's where we have workshops. In this personalized setup, that's where you're going to have these individualized videos where we're going to teach you a specific technique that you can then employ. 70% of the time is trying to put that in place. It's working it out. It's trying to figure out what's working, what's not, how to tweak it till it feels more comfortable. And 20% of the time is getting coaching or feedback from others who can help make sure that you are making the adjustments needed in order to get the results that you want. And then it's iterative, because once you learn a little bit that has to be fixed, you go back in, you learn some more for 10%, you go back in and try it out for 70%, and it keeps going that way. And that's how we know you're going to learn it. When you think about how you've learned anything else, whether it was music, arts, gymnastics, golf, anything, you didn't just watch a video and then go out and compete. That probably wouldn't end very well. And you're certainly not going to watch a video on how to play the violin and then sit in the first chair. You're going to watch some things, see if you have an interest. You might hack around a little bit, decide you really want to learn how to either really make beautiful music or how to hit a great golf shot. And then you take some instructional video. You might even take some personalized instruction. You do a lot of practice, shanking balls, hooking balls, all kinds of things until you finally get the groove of this. You might even get one of your buddies to take a video of you on your cell phone just to see how bad your form is. And then you can understand a little bit more where you have to go back in and learn something different, go back in and practice, etc. That's how you really become more proficient. And leadership is the same type of journey. It's not like going to a classroom and poof, you're a great leader. It's something that has to be worked on for a long period of time. And if you let up and you take it for granted, it isn't going to end well for you or your direct reports. So let's take a look at what you're going to experience for the next 6 months. In the first month, you're really going to have a self-discovery piece. And in this self-discovery, you're going to take a suite of assessments. In the suite of assessments, you're going to really understand some of the things that are already strengths for you and some things that might need some working. You're going to spend some time with your coach one-on-one to understand this suite of assessments and to put together an individual development plan. In this individual development plan, you're going to set some measurable time-based goals because that's how you're going to be able to track your progress, and so will your boss or HR if they're providing you with support. When you set up a measurable time-based goal, say you wanted to get better at delegation, that sounds all fine. How will we know if you've gotten any better at it? Well, if your measurable time-based goal is that you want to delegate 3 projects by the end of the year that get delivered on time and on budget without micromanaging, that's going to be measurable and time-based. Additionally, it allows you to put together measurable and time-based action steps to support that. The first thing I have to do is decide which 3 projects I want to delegate by a certain date. The next thing is, to whom am I going to delegate those projects by a certain date? Then when am I going to teach them the model that I'm going to use by a certain date? And so both you are going to see check marks or completion dates on each of those steps, and so will your boss. So you can show you're actually making progress and you're getting some ROI on not only the money, but the time you're spending on developing your leadership. Also, as part of this self-discovery, we're going to be asking each of your direct reports to take 2 assessments on behalf of the job. One is on DISC, and that's going to tell us their behaviors. Are they an extrovert or an introvert? Are they an analytic or creative? And the other piece is going to be their motivators. What gives them gratification in their work? What inspires them to do those things? They're going to get a response immediately back that's going to give them the report that they can read. There's even going to be a short video describing what DISC and motivators are about, so they know right away. There's no mystery. But we're going to be using that when you're learning how to give them feedback, because you have to give feedback very differently to an extrovert than you would to an introvert. And we're also going to be using it in the development plans when you're helping to develop them. What gives them gratification in their work may be different if they have a thirst for learning than if their passion is really about helping others. So tapping into their motivation to help with that development is going to be very important. So that first month is going to really set the stage for everything else. Then you're going to start learning the 8 leadership practices that are in this program. In month 2, we're going to go over the empowerment model. In the empowerment model, you're going to learn how to delegate projects. This is different than how you're going to delegate tasks and day-to-day activities, which we'll talk about in a later month, but projects that need to be done. And you'll start small, but some organizations have really gotten to the point where they're now using this empowerment model for delegating projects that are client-facing projects, and everybody in the organization is using the same program. So again, each month you're going to have an instructional video from me or a couple of videos. And in fact, in month 2, you're going to have 3 instructional videos. It's the longest month on how to use the empowerment model. Then you're going to be given some homework to try to put something in place and some one-on-one time with your coach. In month 3, you're going to learn about how to give feedback to people. Remember, those assessments that we had your direct reports take are going to help you understand how to tailor this feedback to people, but you're going to learn how to give positive feedback as well as course corrections. And we're going to teach you a 4-step model in how to deliver the feedback in a way that engages the person in the problem solving and focused on the results. There's a couple of videos here, and then you're going to have some practical application and one-on-one time with your coach. When we get to month 4, there are 2 techniques you're going to learn. One is how to develop the direct reports who report to you, and the other is how to conduct one-on-ones. I'm going to have a little spoiler alert here. One-on-ones are not a status update. This is all about the relationship between you and your direct report. When you think about people you've worked for in the past, or even professors that you've loved, you've had a great relationship, they got to know you as a person, you would go to the wall for these people. You'd spend extra time, you would do changing personal plans around, different things so that you could make sure you delivered up to their expectations. And so it really comes down to that relationship, and we're going to teach you in the one-on-ones how just 20 to 30 minutes a week can change everything between you and your direct reports. When it comes to month 5, we're going to be learning about the job scorecard and performance reviews. Again, 2 different techniques. Job scorecards are going to be about how we delegate those day-to-day activities and how we make sure that individuals are crystal clear on what the expectations are for their job. This is really important because the reason personal accountability is so low, especially here in the United States, is jobs tend to be fluid. What you're asked to do one day is different than the next, and it's almost impossible for somebody to take responsibility for something that they didn't do if they didn't know it was their responsibility to begin with. And so the more clarity we can have around their role, the better that is. Then we're going to kind of stretch back into that feedback model a little bit when we also talk about performance reviews. How do you let people know whether or not they have met your expectations that you laid out in the job scorecard? And we're going to use that. And I know most folks hate performance reviews, both the givers and the takers. And so I think you'll find that using this document and this format is going to make it much easier on everybody, and it's going to really accelerate the performance of your direct reports. Finally, when we look at month 6, we're going to be looking at goal alignment and team succession. In goal alignment, it's really important that when an individual is doing their work, that they have a clear line of vision between what they do and what the company's goals are. Too many times, the company has set goals for the year or the next 3 years, and it's the best kept secret in the company, and nobody else knows, much less how what I do is impacting those goals. So we're going to help you understand the difference between getting the job done and really moving the goals forward. You've probably heard the example before of the 2 masons who were building something, and somebody went up and said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "I'm laying brick." And they said to the other mason, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm building a cathedral." Now, how well do you think the person who thinks he's building a cathedral is paying attention to detail and really taking pride in the work that he's doing? It's that type of clear alignment that we want to focus on. And then when it comes to team succession, we're not talking about elaborate succession plans, but if one of your key people in your organization, people who report directly to you, were suddenly not available for even 6 weeks because they got thrown in the hospital for something, what would you do with the key aspects of their job? How do we make sure that there's business continuity and things go on? So we're going to look at the key aspects of everybody's job who reports to you and make sure there's somebody else who can step in, at least in the short term, until there's a long-term solution. So in keeping with the 70-20-10 model, when you look at our program, everything starts with self-discovery. You wouldn't get into any other physical training program or anything else without somebody taking a baseline of where we're starting so we can see the progress, or we don't give you too much advanced stuff if you haven't gotten the basics, or bore you to tears with the basics if you're beyond that. So we start with the self-discovery, and then again, the 70-20-10 for us is the structured learning. In this case, it's going to be those videos that you're going to watch every month. The practice for 70% of the time, and 20% of the time is the time you're going to spend with your coach one-on-one, both in pre-planned and as things come up when you need to reach out to them. All of this is to say that 70-20-10 or that 100% is not 100% of your living and breathing time. It's 100% of the time that you're dedicating to your leadership development. So whether that's 4 hours a week or 4 hours a month, that's how you should spread out the time you're dedicating to your leadership development. So, as you look forward to joining us on the Leadership Essentials Playbook, we wanted to give you an overview of who we are and what our approach is before you really dive in. And hopefully this will make you more excited about the assessments that you're going to take, that you're going to ask your direct reports to take as we kick this program off. And we'll be excited to see the progress you make over the next 6 months.